behalf of my colleagues, as this is the only opportunity I have to express our gratitude for having been part of this progressive movement. We will go back, especially here, and convey the message home. My home is here, so you have to go back and convey the message. But we really appreciate all the effort and all the processes, and we only hope for this, occasions of this nature to get bigger and better each year. Without wasting much time, and only to open, I will just refer you to the book of Proverbs 12, verse 7. Proverbs 12, verse 7 says, knowledge is power as money. Knowledge is wealth as money is wealth. But the advantage of wisdom is that it saves you from forgetting the exact words, but the message is it saves you from the problems. So you have to use your knowledge to take yourself away from the problems. I will also just cite the African proverb which says, smooth seas do not make skillful sailors. I hope you get that. Smooth seas do not make skillful sailors. It means if you are sailing and you are sailing in the smooth waters, then naturally you won't get better. But if the water gets very rough, then we hope you to become the best sailor. I will also just want to recommend everyone here to try to please reach your dreams. If you intend to make a publication, your presentation a publication, then try to achieve that, because that will make a big difference. And we also want to hope that whatever the efforts that we are making here, especially related to the theme of the conference, when we come back next time, we want to see the difference, the impact of this conference on the efforts of the conference. Without much ado, let me invite Dr. Zimbabwe to give us a recap of the proceedings of yesterday.
Good morning.
Morning.
I remember, let me just start off also with some kind of a quote from my personal mentor. Many people get honorary degrees everywhere, and I decided to give my grandfather an honorary doctorate degree for my personal reasons. When I was young, he said to me, I remember that when I was in grade 2, because of these beatings I used to receive at school, I decided to play truant. I became so successful in playing truants that I would go for a month without both my parents and the school coming together to know why I was playing truants. But if you look deep into the reason why I was playing truants, it is the beatings that I was receiving at school. Is it that I was a bad student? I don't believe so. but because there was no one to represent, my mother never set foot at the school. So one day, because both parties, one day when they discovered they were beating me up, my grandfather was just watching from a distance. He called me one day and said, Louis, let's go out. Anozi vachikaranga chivanhu chedu, unotora mwana wechikomana uchienda naye kunomugombora zvitsiga nguva ino yechando muchiuya nazvo muzoita mbaura manheru. Zvikanzi muzukuru ande mugomo. So handiti gomo rakangoita sezvakaita theatre inei, tiri pazasi. Zvikanzi iwo unozwa kuti tiri mhuri yemushe, tarisa kuso vanhu avo ndevako. But we were just at the bottom of the mountain, and then he said, can you see them? I couldn't see anything. That's okay, let's go up. Tasvika pakati sebanana Dr. Maera. Zvikanzi, urikuona sei vanhu vedavo ndaibva ndaona vanhu vari mumunda vachishakura. Zvikanzi, ndikati sekuru, ndingada kuvakira imba yangu pano apa. Kanzi sure. Zvikanzi kanzi ngatimbofamba futizve. Tasvika pamusoro apo at the summit, zvikanzi tarisa vanhu vakati sekuru, pano pari nani pandakandira apa, saka ndichada kuvakira imba yangu papi pano apa pamusoro pegomo. Zvikanzi very good muzukuru, chigara ndagara. Zvikanzi ukaenda kuchikoro usingarovi, all your dreams will be fulfilled. That's the only philosophy I can give you. So from that day I went and received the last beatings from Mr. Mlambo at Madangombe Primary School. And ndakuzomborokwazve, ndaingotambira pa number 1212 ipapa. Yesterday was day 2 of our conference, and Professor Machinguro was welcomed all the participants of the second day of the conference. Dr. Kwarazimba then provided a summarized recap of the previous day. Conference activities, remarks starting from the presentations or remarks from the Dean, Dr. Owa Banyengwe, and the Pro Vice Chancellor academic who gave the conference opening remarks. Then Dr. Makanda gave the first plenary session, and these are the main points that he raised. He quoted, he quoted that source as an example of the contrast of how people should view issues about education. Dr. Makanda's presentation centered on addressing questions raised during the first day of the conference and covering any other gaps that had been left by the minister's presentation and the PEMSEC. He pointed out that the previous education curriculum did not address issues of value addition and beneficiation to the learners. I actually italicized this as an emphasis. Hence, it was producing graduates who paid for their ignorance. In the context of this, he said the new curriculum is designed to address the needs of the students by equipping them with skills that allow them to address socio-economic, political, and natural situations. Hence, they provided the students with valuable risk-taking attitudes. The new curriculum is designed to produce graduates who are relevant to the local and international conference. As you know that we also have to place ourselves in the context of the international world. The director also spoke of the national pledge as a source of inculcating values that promote Ubuntu and ownership of the means of production. The Ubuntu issue that I also used in my own introduction. The Ubuntu philosophy should underpin the Zimbabwean daily activities in all curriculum subjects, including mathematics. He used the following 2 examples to illustrate the values of the new curriculum. John has 4 oranges and Peter steals 2. How many oranges are left? The key word there is steals. That is the value. And John has 4 oranges and Peter takes 2 and gives them to Mary. The value is giving to Mary. So the two values that these mathematical issues give are stealing and giving. There are moral values also included inside there. The director appealed to the conference attendees to emphasize the development of critical thinking skills and and also problem-solving skills that are underpinned by the Ubuntu among the learners right from the ECD levels. Finally, the director emphasized the need for academics to help write the Zimbabwean story, and the Zimbabwean story in capital letter S. However, he observed that the issue of the language policy is not yet fully settled, since government has not yet identified which ministry should nest this policy. This is what he viewed as the key cause of the attitudes toward the polarization of the curriculum issues, especially regarding the language, which language should be used for instruction and in which place. The director felt that the issue of the new curriculum should be linked to the national economic space. The next speaker was Dr. Nziramasanga. As a keynote speaker, second keynote speaker, Dr. Nziramasanga was addressed the issues of his topic, which said curriculum review process in the context of the Zimbabwean of the Zim asset, possible linkages with the CED provisions. The main points of the presentations were he was pleased with what the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education achieved so far regarding the refinement of the education system in relation to the focus of the Nziramasanga Commission. He noted that there were some positive linkages between CED and the steps taken in the implementation of the processes of the new curriculum, including the commission was set up to look into the modalities of the implementation of the new curriculum, including the captains of industry, churches, communities, and other employers who use the education product. At one time, he observed that the commission findings died a natural death, and in 2006, another committee was formed, and it was named the Flamboyant Conference. Again, it was made of stakeholders whose interests are on education, and it was set up to look into the way forward based on the findings of the Nziramasanga Commission, to find out ways how the Commission findings should be used to impact the education system. The outcome of the information from the Flamboyant Conference in Masvingo was made available to the Vice Chancellors of all universities in Zimbabwe. From that view, Dr. Nziramasanga acknowledged that the implementation process of the Commission's findings is taking shape in many ways in accordance with the recommendations of chapters 12 to 20 of the Commission's full document. According to Dr. Nziramasanga, the CED report is only a guideline for reforming education. Already, the findings are being used in other countries, and he gave the example of Nigeria, which actually has gone a long way into using the Nziramasanga Commission's findings. Therefore, Dr. Nziramasanga observed that research should shape the country and benefit national development. That is the reason why we are all here today. His recommendation was that the debate should continue while the implementation is happening along the lines of the Commission itself. On the recommendation that there should be a new, one of the recommendations was that there should be a new school structure with a pathway system to where no people was left behind, and these included the general system pathway, the business language pathway system, the field technology pathway, and the Tibet. There is also another pathway which he called the half type, and the the conference agreed that this should be called the non-formal vocational education pathway system. Using the pathway approach system, students should learn all the skills and knowledge in the pathways 1 to 4. Student assessment. On student assessment, the Dr. Nziramasanga mentioned that assessment should be done continuously through tests and written work. These assessments, he said, these assessment models will help to assess the students' levels levels of knowledge acquired and how the students as individuals, performers, are progressing in education. Dr. Nziramasanga noted that there were some disconnects between the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education, what the Ministry of Primary Education, Primary and Secondary Education was doing, in some recommendations, some of the recommendations of the Nziramasanga, including that there were no linkages between Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education and the universities. And there was also a disconnect between Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education and the Higher Education Ministry. The disconnection between these institutions, naming and the qualifications that they offered. The chairperson, Professor Machingura, opened the house to question time, and both keynote speakers responded to the questions that were directed to them. The participants then broke out into the seminar presentations. This is a report of the proceedings of the day. Thank you. Sure.
Okay, thanks, Doctor, for a comprehensive report. I'm sure even some of us who were not here have a glimpse of what the issues were. Let me just say this again because sometimes I forget these things. My colleague there, you see, when here we are saying we are doing so much, but we are not implementing what we are doing. Zimbabweans are good at doing this good research, but they do not implement. I think she wouldn't understand what that means. Because the perception there is that really Zimbabweans are extremely hard workers and they do implement what they mean, what they go for. So now I think that becomes the issue of the disparities between maybe economies or institutions of higher learning or whatever. Because we are saying here we are at this level, but we are not satisfied. So what would they say now when they are at their level? I just want to take the recommendation. I want to emphasize always that let this curriculum reform, because this is the first curriculum reform for the country, if I'm not mistaken. But we don't want to see this as just a playing around of the nomenclature, changing from subjects to learning areas. Then we may see when it is being revisited in 2022, you see that maybe there is also the changing back from learning areas to subjects. Because we have seen that quite a number of playing around with this nomenclature. We change from subjects to learning areas, we change from educators to teachers, we then change from teachers to educators backwards, that movement. For me, I don't think it will take anyone anywhere. It's just a waste of resources, if we may put it that way. When we think of the 80%, 80-20 rule, I think we think what quickly comes into our mind is really an economic principle. 80-20 rule that you can achieve 80% of your goals with 20% of the effort. That is the understanding. So if we Zimbabweans are said, maybe we are very good, we produce 80%, we research 80%, and we implement 20% or less. If we really want progress and serious development, then we should fling the 80%, this 80-20 rule to 20-80 rule. And that would mean with 20% of researches, 80% is implemented. I think that swing should mean quite a lot to our efforts. Okay, with that, let me invite, now we are moving on to the next presentation. Let me invite the Dean of Education. But before I invite the Dean of Education, I don't want to be dismissed before my term ends. When I said good morning, colleagues, I meant protocol observed. Yes, please. So, and on that note, let me invite the Dean of Education of the Faculty of Education, Dr. Apanyangwi, to present his topic, Reflections on Professionalization of Teaching in Zimbabwe. Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Well, I think this being a conference, really, I think we should go away with the protocols. We are just colleagues. Yeah. As indicated, I'm presenting reflections on the professionalization of teaching in Zimbabwe. Well, perhaps just to begin by explaining that what I'm presenting basically is an outsider perspective. An outsider perspective in the sense that I am not a participant in the process of professionalization of teaching in Zimbabwe. I'm just reflecting from outside. I think we are now aware that there are efforts that are being made to professionalize teaching. And there are individuals who are involved in that. I don't know how far they've gone. I don't know what ideas they have. So that is why I'm saying I'm doing it from outside. Yes, I've tried to reflect a bit on what a profession is, criteria used to determine a profession. But again, that was not contributing to the efforts that are being made right now. So I'm therefore external to the process. So if there are some of you here who are involved in the process of professionalizing teaching, and if what I'm saying is not part of, or is part of what you are doing, forgive me. It is babes. I'm saying these things out of ignorance. I'm coming from the position of pragmatism. That is a philosophy that rejects the existence of the objective standpoint from which to ascertain professionalism or non-professionalism of an occupation. In other words, what I'm saying is we should not think that there is a position or a profession or a group of people who have clearly defined procedures and criteria of determining whether something is a profession or not. So I think professions define themselves as they evolve. So in other words, there is no absolute standpoint. Then, if there are no absolute standpoint, if there is no absolute standpoint, then there are relative standpoints. professionalism is defined in and through experience, the practical application of meaning as we make sense of our existential circumstances, that is in the context of one. What I'm saying is, a profession is the thing that defines itself as a profession. There should be no outsiders who come to tell us that what you claim to be a profession is not a profession. It is the practitioners who define what they are doing as a profession. In other words, there is no one who should have a privileged position to define profession. So we understand the definitions as they evolve out of our collective experiences, not in an objective world, but subjective world. In other words, I'm just buttressing what I have said, that reality really is socially constructed. Socially constructed as individuals interact with one another. In terms of profession, it is the professionals who are working together who evolve aspects of that profession that they think define them. Now, what is the context and rationale for the discussion? I'm going to be reading quite a lot because I realize if I try to explain, then I will spend a lot of time. So during feedback, on a longitudinal study that I'm participating in, teacher participants in the FGD said, it is well and fine that the development partner is improving the welfare of learners, buying textbooks for the library, holding workshops for parents and teachers, for psychosocial support for learners, creating awareness in disaster and risk reduction, and health and hygiene, and refreshing our memories on child-centered methodologies. But there is one thing that is critical to the success of learners that you are forgetting. That is the welfare of teachers. What are they going to do for us? Now, the research we are involved in is a longitudinal study where we are looking at an organization that has improved the learning environment. And they want to see the effect of the interventions that they've made on learning outcomes and child development. But most of the activities, in fact, all the activities basically, are intended to improve the learning environment insofar as the learners are involved. So you train the teachers on child-centered methodologies, you create learning, the physical structure, you put up physical structures that will make learning comfortable. You engage the parents on how they can support the learners at home. But in terms of teacher welfare, the teachers are saying, what are you doing for us that will benefit us as individuals? In other words, the teachers are saying, we are central to the teaching learning process, but it appears the organization, the development partner, has neglected the interests of the teachers. That is how they feel. But unfortunately, the development partner, by nature, the policies that they focus on children, they cannot focus on the teachers. But teachers are saying we are central to what happens within the school. Now, the Presidential Commission of Inquiry into Education and Training noted that it is teachers who make the difference in the classroom. So in other words, the Commission report is in agreement with the perception that the teachers have about their role. So they also say, while many factors have been identified as contributing to the poor performance of education, the problem is to do a great deal. The problem has to a great extent been attributed to unsatisfactory and variable teacher performance and commitment. So again, this reality of the teacher. Thompson in 1999 said in the Presidential Commission of Inquiry into Education and Training says, the challenge we have in education is engaging untrained individuals as teachers. Then we also have higher rates of staff turnover with more experience and better qualified teachers leaving the profession, poor morale among teachers, which often results in absenteeism, neglect of responsibilities, and a general lack of accession to duties, and failure to attract more brilliant school leavers into teacher education. In other words, they are saying education is not doing as it should be. We are not producing good results in our schools because of the factors that are on the screen. In other words, the teaching profession is not measuring up to the expectations of society. And as a result, there is, to some extent, a disillusionment in terms of what teachers can do. But this means we have a lot of criticism being targeted at teaching. But we thought perhaps, I thought I could just bring these two citations just to indicate that when teaching as a profession is condemned, it's not just peculiar to teaching. All other professions have had some criticisms, and I just thought I should pick this, which relates to medicine. Someone said, indeed, medicine was also vilified as it was developing into a profession. Oliver Wendell Holmes noted that in 1869, there is that condition. If the whole materia medica as now used could be sunk to the bottom of the sea, it could be all the better for mankind and all the worse for the fishes. Then the next condition, it is very well understood among college boys that after a man has failed in scholarship, failed in writing, failed in speaking, failed in every purpose for which he entered the college, after he has dropped down from class to class, after he has been kicked out of college, there is one unfailing seat of refuge, the profession of medicine. So, if we find people criticizing education, then we need to realize that criticism are targeted at almost all professions. And criticism should not put us down. Criticism should actually help us to develop further and to develop the zeal and perhaps the energy to ensure that we counter the criticism and try by all means to improve the profession. Now, currently, despite the criticism, medicine ranks among the best professions, but this does not mean it has escaped issues of cost escalation and the malpractices. I think here in Zimbabwe we've all heard the shares of malpractices within the medical profession. It no longer suffers dual disrespect that teaching experience. It is in this context that it is hoped teaching will be able to shake off negative perceptions. What is needed is resilience and perhaps focus. Now, recognizing the critical role teachers play, science recommended establishment of teaching professions council, which would, among other things, monitor the professional behavior of teachers and deregister those who do not meet the laid down standards. Then they also recommended the establishment of a teaching service commission that was to be responsible for the employment of teachers. But from what we heard, the ministry has taken up the first one, that is the establishment of the Teaching Professions Council. Now, Snook argued that it is more useful to explore the characteristics of the teaching profession today than comparing it to some proposed ideal. In other words, again, this is, as I said, we're informed by the philosophy of pragmatism. And we are saying we have professions that have been accepted by society, by the practitioners themselves. For example, you will have medicine. We have the lawyers, the legal profession. We have the nurses in Islam. And all with the world over, we've had discussions on what constitutes a profession. We have criteria that have been established for determining whether an occupation can graduate into a profession. And what Snoop is saying when he says it's more useful to explore the characteristics to the teaching profession today than comparing it to some proposed ideal. What he's simply saying is, yes, we have criteria for determining what a profession should look like or should fulfill. But we should not, in the process of trying to professionalize teaching, use these criteria to determine whether teaching is a profession or not. So Snoop suggests that in this approach, the characteristics of classical professions are used as a frame of reference for development instead of judgment. In other words, when we look at criteria that we use to determine whether a profession is an occupation is graduated into a profession, we should not say, we look at the criteria and say, from the criteria that we have, teaching is not a profession. No, we can't say. He's saying we shouldn't do that. And I believe that is, we shouldn't do that. What we can do is we look at the criteria that are available, then we use them for our improvement, without using them for judgment purposes. In that case, we no longer ask whether teaching fulfills criteria for being regarded as a profession, but proceed with professionalization endeavors. The means of primary and secondary education set in motion efforts to establish a teaching profession classroom whose mandate would include superintending over a professionalized sector as a upholder and gatekeeper for standards. To demonstrate commitment to this noble gesture, the ministry made teacher profession standards one of the pillars of the curriculum framework. I think this was referred to by Dr. Makata and also by Dr. Masango. Right, so what are some of the criteria of determining whether an occupation is graduated into a profession? One criteria is that a profession must be providing an essential service, an essential social service. So the general outcry on the relevance or irrelevance of education and the high overall results at all levels of education are indications that teaching provides an essential service to society. I think every time we have O-level results being published or grade 7 results being published or A-level results being published, you find articles in the newspapers, you find comments, you find the newspapers even approaching specialists in education at universities, teachers' colleges, to find out their views about education. That shows that society is concerned about what is happening within the school systems. That means society realizes that the results of the schools or the education system are important for the development of society. So in other words, there is an acknowledgement, though which may be indirectly, that teaching indeed provides an essential service. So while there are criticism, people continue to send their children to school. Again, this means teaching is indeed important, is providing an essential service. This means that the service that teaching provides is indispensable to the individual child, whose socialization will remain incomplete without it, and the parents appreciate it. Furthermore, teaching prepares individuals for various occupational roles. What we need to do, therefore, is to continue to engage the services that schools can give to the learners in the changing world. This way, we are confronted with the phenomenon of globalization. Right? With globalization, there are many opportunities that are coming in. There are many services that schools are now expected to offer, and the teaching is expected to offer to society. What services can we confine to the teaching profession? We need to reflect on that. Now, another criterion is that a professional must possess a body of specialized knowledge. Academic knowledge legitimizes professional work by clarifying its foundation and tracing them to major cultural values. In most modern professions, these have been the values of technology, logic, and science. Academic professionals demonstrate the rigor, the clarity, and the scientifically logical character of professional work. Those acquainted with teacher education will be aware that both the subject matter knowledge, methodology, and the knowledge of educational theory are indispensable to the preparation of teachers, including being up to date with the relevant outcomes of educational research. That is, we talk of propositional knowledge and procedural knowledge. In other words, professions are said, it is said that for an occupation to be regarded as a profession, it must possess a body of knowledge. Often, it has been argued that those occupations that are not professions would not have a body of knowledge or who fail to locate or indicate the bodies of knowledge that are extant in their occupation. So, in the case of teaching, we know that we train the teachers. They need to have the knowledge of the subjects that they are going to engage or to teach in the school. They need to have knowledge of methodology. They need to have knowledge of the students that they teach. They need to be able to advise the learners. All that requires knowledge. Indeed, Girl argues that in addition to academic knowledge, teachers also develop knowledge derived from experiential and practical experiences in the classroom. In other words, if we are to be effective as teachers, we definitely will then need to know our students. That is what will enable us to offer individual assistance to the learners. So as we professionalize teaching, we need to identify what knowledge we can select for access by students, student teachers, to prepare them to handle the different learning areas that we talked about by Dr. Makanda and Dr. Masango, as well as the Minister of Learning and Education. Then another criterion is having a high degree of autonomy. Snow points to one of the attributes of typical profession as professional autonomy, which is characterized by members of the profession possessing the power to control their own work, self-regulating and self-governing, or must have professional counsel that governs its activities. At the same time, a member of the profession as an individual should be autonomous to observe his role and responsibilities the way he or she feels best in the interest of the profession. If we take developments in Zimbabwe within the establishment of the TPC, how far will this be achieved? In other words, with the development of the teaching profession council, I think that one will wait to see how it is going to be achieved. I think the chairperson of today's session has already indicated that we have been hearing that as Zimbabweans were very good at producing documents, but very poor in terms of implementing the decisions or the recommendations that will come up with in our regulations, in our document. Perhaps this might be the same. If now they're working on the document that should guide the teaching professions council, perhaps wait to see how it is going to be implemented, how it is going to be actualized. Then again, another criterion is that a profession must have a code of conduct. A well-articulated code of conduct, a code of ethics to regulate the conduct of accredited professionals is one of the hallmarks of a profession. A code of ethics is supposed to be a means to win the trust of the public and public bodies of the government, that is the power to license the profession and its members. The code also provides guidance for good conduct of the members of the teaching profession and articulate the sanctions for breaking the code. How do we operationalize this in Zimbabwe? Well, so far, cause of misconduct has been crafted by the employer on how practitioners relate with students, parents, community, employer, and the profession. In other words, in other professions, it is the members of the profession who come up with the code of conduct. If the lawyers come up with the code of conduct, or code of ethics that regulates conduct by the lawyers. The doctors do the same. The nurses do the same. And now here we are trying to professionalize teaching. Are the teachers going to come up with a code of conduct that will regulate their activities? What we have now is documents produced by the employer. So we need to reflect on perhaps how we are going to professionalize teaching in a way that will enable the teachers to come up with a code of ethics that will guide them in their everyday activities. Now, in the interest of time, I will not talk about all the criteria that professions need to fulfill for them to be recognized as professions, but just to indicate that the organization into professional groups, that is, you then have a group or an organization that represents the interests of the professionals. We have the Legal Professions Council, Health Professions Council here in Zimbabwe. But in education, in teaching, we have quite a number of them. The challenge then is, will the teaching profession be able to have all these diverse groups come together to form one body that represents their interests? That is the challenge for us that we need to reflect upon. Then example service above personal gains. When I joined the teacher training, I remember my first lecture in education was by Professor Atkinson. And he said, you have decided to join a noble profession. And in teaching as a noble profession, don't expect to earn a lot of money. If you want to earn a lot of money, then you are in the wrong profession. And example service above personal gains. In other words, are we likely to continue to focus on just providing a service and upholding that teaching is a noble profession, and therefore we shouldn't worry about the salary that we are going to get? Then again, recognition by the public. We are trying to professionalize the teaching. If the public refuses to recognize teaching as a profession, what would it mean? Is teaching going to cease to be a profession? Yes, public recognition is important, but to what extent we need to reflect on that. Then setting our own standards, again, that is related to the code of ethics that I've referred to. Then the last one, lifelong professional development of the members of the profession. This is one of the criteria that requires that any profession must have provision for in-service, provision for workshops to staff develop the professionals, to ensure that the professionals continue to learn. They are aware of new developments, they are able to learn about new ideas, new inventions, and the impact they will have on their profession. For example, these days, we have ICT. How are we, as professionals, taking on ICT? Have we been able to implement it, to make use of ICT in our teaching? So, continuous professional development would then perhaps mean reskilling of the professional. What are the supposed benefits from the professionalization of teaching? Developing individuals who are highly motivated and dedicated practitioners. No more or said. I don't know how we can talk of professionalizing teaching if teachers continue, well, it's related to what I've talked about, where you don't want to emphasize more on how much you earn, but perhaps accepting that teaching is a noble profession where we develop human beings, individuals, where we should be committed to providing a service without really focusing on money. But if the money is so little that a teacher cannot afford decent accommodation, decent means of transportation, then I wonder how we will be able to professionalize teaching and earn the respect that it should. I remember in 2008 talking to a combi conductor who said, in India, we're going to badara my teacher 5 from the desk takings. And somebody said, do we do? Masurano, my teacher to know Tamanao. And the teacher cannot afford accommodation. Then you think you talk of professionalizing teaching. I don't know how far we achieve that. Then approaches practitioners who are creative and eager to learn, characterized by the spirit of inquiry. That is equal professionalizing teaching, and we are serious about professionalization of teaching. These are the benefits that will accrue from that process. What are the current obstacles to the professionalization of teaching? The fact that teachers are not required to get licensed as a prerequisite to teaching in the classroom. The erroneous notion that any untrained teacher could be enlisted to teach. Poor remuneration of teachers. The materialistic conception which makes financial reward a yardstick for measuring fulfillment in the teaching profession, and the unfriendly teaching environment. I don't know. When I think of the unfriendly teaching environment, some other time I had a class, and 1 week I almost had an empty class. And the next week I asked the students where they were. They said they'd gone home. And I said, why? Because they were required to attend some meeting. And if it was established that they had not attended the meeting, they will be in trouble. And the people who will be responsible for the trouble are their former students in the rural areas who failed Form 4, and they now think it is the opportunity for them to demonstrate it to the teachers that they are now more powerful than their teachers. That means these former students have no respect for their former teachers, but if that happens, it also means that the society in which these teachers operate is no respect for the teachers as well. So that kind of environment really mitigates against the professionalization of teaching. There's also lack of respect, it's related to that. And I think it is our hope that the professionalization of teaching will address most of these issues. Then, according to Aristotle, those who know do and those who understand teach. I hope this is true. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Abayaki, for the very important presentation. I think this presentation, the issue of teacher standards, teacher professionalization and all these things, I think it has been, we found it here and it is still ongoing. I'm not sure, I haven't really done a small research on this, the smallest possible research, just to Google and confirm. But at one time, somebody said, in German, teachers are the highest paid profession. I'm not so sure about that though. But then it was said, the public asked the German Vice Chancellor, Angela Merkel, to explain why would teachers be the highest paid profession in Germany. So a response to them, I think, was also in the form of a question to say, how would you compensate someone who has given you knowledge You are what you are because of that individual. So why wouldn't you really appreciate them by compensating them to that level? I'm not so sure about this, but that is actually, I'm just trying to make a point about the respect for teachers, because those are some of the things that will make teachers getting community respect, societal respect, all those things, public significance. Sometimes I also think, isn't it possible that, let's say, we immediately hold research, we stop research, we look at the piles and piles of documents that we have, then we say, let's implement what we have researched so far and see what will happen. Let's not research no more. Let's first work on what we have researched, because I'm sure we have researched quite a lot. Let's just implementing, because action is the weakest point of mankind, if I may put it that way. On that note, let me appreciate the previous speaker, the previous presenter. The question and answer will come after the next presenters. For now, let me invite the Professor Moyana from the Curriculum and Arts Department to make a presentation on operationalizing teacher professional standards through literature and teacher education and training for sustainability.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I have not done a PowerPoint presentation, but you will read with me. The Dean and I were just talking before we came. When you are presenting a paper, you decide two things. Either you do a PowerPoint like he has done, or you do the paper before the PowerPoint. So now he did the PowerPoint before the paper, and I've done the paper before the PowerPoint. We're just, laughing at how it works like that. So I'm not good with time, so I'm going to time. I have 20 minutes. I'm going to try and talk through this to give you a report. It's really a report on how my BEd English classes too worked through, tried to operate, we called it operationalizing the teacher professional standards. If you're a teacher, you've gone through workshops of these 3 booklets. There are 7 in all, but these 3 are the practical face of TPS. So the one that we were working with is the blue one. It's called a Handbook on Teacher Professional Standards, standards that he was discussing in his paper just now. And we went to page 7 of it. Page 7, I asked how they are operationalized, how they are now doing what, because they've gone through workshops. They are teachers, they are BEd students in the 2nd year, which is the final level, and they are doing, they are teaching because they come here part-time. Others come here during the weekend. So it's weekend class, 12 of them, and part-time class, 22, reduced from a higher number through because of various reasons, including mortality. So we set, and I set and said, your assignment in your first semester of second year is not going to be bookish. It's going to include bookishness and practicality. And they have no choice because that's just what I said to do. They did have a choice, you will see later. So we focused on page 7 of the blue booklet, which says the teacher must be able to apply the subject knowledge and link it with pedagogy. The real word, the actual words are application of subject knowledge and pedagogy, and the link between them. Because we were saying you have now enhanced knowledge having come to university after college, teacher's college level. So you have enhanced teacher professional knowledge, both the knowledge itself, theories and things, and the practicality of it, which is pedagogy. So now how do you, and under that section on page 7, it says the teacher must have subject knowledge and how to teach it, and know how to teach it in inclusive environments. That's one item. Second item, use methodologies appropriate to different learners. Third, ability for conceptual thinking. Fourth, ability to address conceptual challenges among learners. And then fifth, ability to promote innovation and creativity in learners. And finally, on that level, ability, in that section, ability to accommodate diverse cultures and thinking. So we focused on the other one. We said, so I said to myself, let me find out how they demonstrate their ability to address conceptual challenges among learners. That's the item we worked with. And then on page 6 of it, they need to engage cross-curricular themes. Once again, teachers were workshopped on these things in the field, those who are in the field. Not everyone by now, but a beginning was done. They must demonstrate knowledge and understanding of topical stroke contemporary issues. Examples given are education for sustainable development, HIV and AIDS, ICT, inclusive education, environmental issues, economic consciousness, global citizenship. Previously, with a pre-service group, we focused on environmental issues and economic consciousness. We did how to do that in class, and the results are published in here. Myself and the student I worked with is a case study, more or less, Ms. Chimanikire. So that's when yesterday was saying we were being, I think, in one of the presentations either yesterday I think, where or day before, where someone said, do not deal with theoretical assignments as you do pre-servicing of teachers or teaching of teachers, educating teachers. So that is how we try not to be theoretical, but linking their training, their education here with how they can now do it and cascade that knowledge to the rest of the students they teach. And teachers are powerful now. One teacher right now averaging 40 to 60, 65 children in a class. And at anyone, that's the envy of any politician. You have 65 heads listening to you at a rally. You are very happy. Because you are touching 60 families who will vote for you. And teachers have that power, you see. So we work like that. So this paper I'm telling you, it's under construction. You can now give me ideas on how best to make it academic, how to make it more academic, especially under methodology. I was asking colleagues, so what shall I call it? They gave me ideas, but you can do that as well as when we finish. Oh, I'll put this watch over here, right? But I start by, so you read with me as I talk. Raise it a bit more. That's the topic. Operationalizing teacher professional standards through literature in teacher education and training and for sustainability. These TPS documents complement the new curriculum. It will say the same things, that teachers must have those competencies. So teachers are now called upon to do higher things than just stand in front of a class. And so, but I thought to understand that Zimbabwean curriculum framework for primary and secondary education 2015 to 2022, which is this document here. This is the document itself, summary of all those things that were said. There is a second document which is a summary of the process that ended up with this document. They are in the library, by the way. I picked some of these from our library right here. So this paper begins by discussing the differences between 20th century and 21st century teaching and learning issues. In Africa, we got the setting from the minister earlier in his address, where he said there's been colonialism. So 20th century in Africa and in Zimbabwe was that time where we were grappling with challenges of colonialism. And education, under colonialism, education was not for all, but for the privileged few who needed to be above average learners. And if one were a girl, you had to have very open-minded parents, especially fathers, to send you to school beyond primary, because the reason they send you there is for you to be able to write a letter to a husband who is working in the mines, or so that you can tell him, I am very happy and see you when you come. To letters sometimes that were never responded to, because then there was no literacy. But how did pupils learn and how did teachers teach during that time? So that forms the background to this. While 20th century had many different ways of teaching and learning, which led to many inventions, basically it was dominated by teacher-centeredness. Dr. Mavuto demonstrated that yesterday when he memorized, when he recited what he memorized about a science topic. I can't remember the subject, what he remembered, but it was a long memorized statement. Yeah, that is typical of the 20th century day. And you didn't have to know what it is you were talking about. So scholarships were, however, also available in 20th century. Tuition fees were never that high. Salaries were something, but they did something for you. For some people, things may not have been as good as for others, but for one thing, there was at least job security, and life was predictable. 21st century life is dicey, and if you live in Zimbabwe, you are lucky in a way, because we are stable, we are sort of stable. If you are in other parts of Africa and in other parts of the world, you could be bombed any minute for being at a wedding. Life may not be as predictable as we have it in our country. So here's an American example of how stable things were, and I'm sure you can read that. Throughout most of the 20th century, a high school diploma was usually enough to assure American employers. I chose the American example because they are a big country, big economy, which we in the third world tend to believe that they absorb every graduate who comes out of their school system. And they have all this money at their exposed, disposal. So, in fact, many large companies operated their own internal training and development programs for recent high school graduates. As a result, many Americans enjoyed long, successful careers, usually working for the same companies for their entire lives. Finished. It was like that. Things were secure like that. In Zimbabwe, the last 2 decades of the 20th century were enjoyable on the whole. The 80s, the 90s. Colonialism ended. Independence was gained. In 1980, and then there was much rejoicing. You remember how we would be dancing and partying with the promise that the future would be bright and laden with opportunities for young and old. It was a euphoric time. But towards the end of that decade, however, things changed for Zimbabwe and elsewhere. This change was well captured in this American situation which I was following, and once again, with this quotation, with college tuition costs climbing, even there too, at a record pace, many high school students must decide whether to invest in a college education or to just go for a job. Things changed for them. In Zimbabwe, changes were captured in literature. By 1990, in titles such as Harvest of Thorns. And that tells you something was changing. And in South Africa, there's this Clem Santa, the author who wrote Never Mind the Millennium. What about the next 24 hours? It's a book published in 1999. And by 2000, political winds of change were also sweeping across Zimbabwe, and land redistribution began. It was a necessity. So, life demands shifted so much. And therefore, you will find that that needed to affect the education sector. And Zimbabwe, the world was opening up to embrace what was now called the global perspective of things. And there was talk of the global village. That's talk of the 21st century, where one had to be marketable. Suddenly we have become commodities now. And those changes became more accentuated in the 21st century. And the demand for a different type of education also became accentuated. The situation is aptly described again in the American situation, where recent changes in the global job market these are people who believed they were superpowers. They were now being shaken by what they call the global job market. And those traditions of you working for one company for the rest of your life have changed. Very few people experience the stability of working for only one employer, and you can read on as it goes. So those changes were happening, and therefore the approach to education also changed. That becomes the content, you see. The country changes become the content with which education works. So, but before we go, choose what I'm cancelling like the other presenter. Before discussing such educational change, here's a summary. I thought we should see a summary of what one did in the 20th century, the learning aspects. Yeah, you learned in the 20th century in order to become an employee of someone. And if you were in the colonial setup, you were actually, picture the difference between Gwebi Agricultural College and Chivero. Gwebi was training managers, farm managers. Chivero was training people who worked under them. and those were black people. Webby was for white people. So that's the example of how you learn to become an employee of someone. Teaching and learning were time-based. You remember the example from the minister where he said, my class was noisy and the bell had gone. And then the leaders of the school wanted to know what's going on. You had to be quiet and listen to the teacher teaching. That's what it means to say that. There was memorization, and I gave an example, Dr. Mamdo, before you walked in, of how you memorized this science. Yes. And learning was teacher-centered. Yeah, move faster. Teacher-centered, okay. We focused on Bloom's taxonomy, objectives. Now, objectives are school-based. In order to pass an exam, you want to have been seen to have covered, and students must give you back certain things to show that they've. Now, 21st century deals with a different type of taxonomy, which we shall get to later. There was mostly passive learning, yes. Little or no freedom extended to the students in their search for the information, discipline problems, fragmented curriculum, and it was sometimes considered irrelevant. And that is captured in novels such as by Ngoshi, who wrote Waiting for the Rain. The irrelevance of the education is perceived by the community and the students, and so on, and so on. It's a long, so those are examples of what, and distance learning was called correspondence those days. So we are completing the second decade of, yeah, you can move to the next page, page 6. We are completing the